Good afternoon. Police are set to provide an update today on the investigation into the shooting death of a Toronto rapper.
23-year-old Shakur Clark Sargent was gunned down in Scarborough last Monday. CTV's John Musselman has been following this story and joins us live with more. John.
Well, hi, Nathan. We should get more information from Toronto Police around 1:30. We'll just show you some video. This shooting happened last Monday night, Kingston Road and Galloway Road area. Police say 23-year-old Shakur Sargent Clark was shot and killed near the building there. Our emergency crews did respond and provided CPR, but he did not survive. Now, police say that one suspect was arrested and charged in connection with this case. They were looking for a second suspect. Now, residents in the area and also on social media posts identified this man as a local rapper known as YTN Paco. Even Drake posted on his Instagram site about his killing. So we'll get an update at 1:30 this afternoon, try to find out what information police are releasing, and we'll have much more on this story on CTV News at 5 and at 6. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
No injuries have been reported following an early morning fire in East York.
This was the second alarm. There was probably about 60 firefighters here at the height of the fire, working all around, cutting holes in the roof, getting up inside and pulling the ceiling down, just checking for the extension.
Flames broke out shortly after 5:30 a.m. at a sports bar in the area of O'Connor Drive and North Line Road. The fire has since been extinguished. The cause is under investigation.
Still to come, Prime Minister Mark Carney is taking part in the 80th meeting of the United Nations General Assembly today. We'll have more on his trip to New York a little later in the newscast. But first, Ontario's health minister was in Brampton this morning announcing an expansion for primary care in the province.
She outlined an investment of more than $250 million, which is meant to connect half a million people, more people, directly to doctors. Let's get to CTV's Beth Macdonell, has been following this story. She joins us live with the details on this. Beth.
Yeah, Michelle, the Ontario government has a $2.1 billion plan to connect everyone in Ontario to convenient primary care by 2029. And today the government says it's one step closer to making that happen. So what that means is the government is expanding the next call for proposals to create and expand the next 75 primary care teams. So communities across the province can now apply for funding, and these proposals submitted are based on the number of people without access to primary care in each place. Each new team will prioritize patients and those already on a wait list for a healthcare provider. A wait list the government says has decreased by 98,000 as of the start of this year.
This brings us another step closer to connecting everyone in Ontario to a primary care clinician by 2029. In June, you may remember we announced a $235 million investment, which funded more than 130 new and expanded primary care teams to connect more than 300,000 people to primary care. And many of these teams are already accepting new patients.
Investments like this not only strengthen our healthcare system, but also empower frontline workers and community partners who dedicate themselves every day to improving health outcomes across our province.
The government expects to announce the next successful teams in the spring of 2026. Reporting live in Brampton, I'm Beth Macdonell. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. A new study finds Toronto has been falling far short of its housing target for this year. Researchers with the University of Ottawa compared housing starts across the first 6 months of 2025 with the same period over the past 4 years. They were down 58% in Toronto overall, while condo starts alone were down 80%. The report says in the first half of this year, the city was about 67% behind the goal set by the province. That's a shortfall of nearly 10,000 units.
We needed to have another look at the data, bring it up to date because we've been dealing with lagging data, and then look forward. And so this report really pulls it all together. And it's bad, and it's getting worse. Like if you look at the sales forecast, for example, in high-rise, it's 89% condos. Low-rise, we're down to we're 70%. below where we should be. And to get back to that long-term average is going to take a lot. We can do it, but right now we've got a problem.
The study says the slower pace of construction likely meant 10,000 fewer construction jobs in the city, part of a wider loss of an estimated 24,000 across the Golden Horseshoe.
A note for commuters, there are some subway service disruptions to take note of this week. Trains will stop running between Ossington and St. George stations on Line 2 at midnight. This closure is to accommodate track work in the area. Shuttle buses will be running instead. The early closures will continue through to Friday, and there will also be limited service on Line 1 between Finch West and Shepherd West stations at 11 p.m. each night through Thursday. Passengers can expect delays of up to 15 minutes when traveling through the area.
The Blue Jays have punched their ticket to the postseason.
Ground ball to second. And the Blue Jays are going to the postseason.
The Jays beat the Kansas City Royals 8-5 yesterday to snap a 4-game losing streak and secure themselves a playoff berth. The team celebrated in the clubhouse after the game.
This is fun to celebrate. Let's go.
Now the team will be focused on trying to win the American League East for the first time since 2015. The Jays have today off before beginning a series with the Boston Red Sox tomorrow.
And more news in a moment, but just like it was raining there in that dressing room, it is wet today. We got quite a bit of rain yesterday evening and now into today. Certainly a soaker of a Monday. Let's bring in Lindsay Morris to see how much we're going to endure, Lindsay.
Well, it's interesting, Michelle, because so much of September has been dry, relatively speaking. We've had 2 days of rain, one day at the beginning of the month and then yesterday. And now we're going to add to the tally today with some showers and some thunderstorms moving in right along the lakeshore of Lake Ontario from Etobicoke through Durham region. Still raining. We've got some pretty heavy rain and thunderstorms from Port Hope north into the Peterborough area, and another cluster of storms now making its way across southwestern Ontario. It is warm and humid today. Right now it feels like 27 in Toronto. Southerly winds, a little breezier the closer you get to the shoreline of Lake Ontario around the Golden Horseshoe and toward Lake Erie. 24 is our forecast high today, 24 degrees, feeling like 27. And a reminder, fall officially arrives in just a couple of hours. We'll take you through the forecast for the first few days of the new season coming up. For now, Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre had a longer road back to the House of Commons this summer after losing the federal election and his seat in the spring.
However, his political future is not guaranteed as he prepares for an upcoming leadership challenge. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has the details.
The honourable leader of the opposition. A highly anticipated return to the House of Commons this week.
My mother taught me never to be late, so please forgive me for my late arrival to the session.
But it took Pierre Poilievre a by-election win last month for him to get back here after he lost his seat in Carleton, a riding he'd held for 20 years as his party lost the election. Now the Conservative Party leader's next test is just months away.
One more question, if you'll permit me, on another vote that you're going to face, and that's the leadership review in January. Do you have a magic number?
No. I don't believe in magic.
In a one-on-one interview on CTV's Question Period with Vashi Kapelos, Poilievre said there's no specific level of support he's looking to get from his party, even when pressed again.
Do you have a number at which you think you need in order to remain as leader?
I don't know.
Why not?
I'll be working to win over the people of the Conservative Party who will be there, and our message will be that I'm the leader that will bring forward the Canada that will restore the promise of the country.
The Conservative Party's constitution requires a leadership review if a leader doesn't resign after an election loss. According to the latest data from Nanos Research, Poilievre's personal popularity is more than 20 points behind Prime Minister Mark Carney's.
A leadership review is sort of like a family meeting, right? It's not the public's perception of Pierre Poilievre right now that we're worried about. It's the party's perception.
But Conservative strategist Larissa Waller says there is no worry within the Conservative Party.
So the family's actually pretty happy with the performance of the leader.
Poilievre's leadership review will take place in January in Calgary, the home of his new riding.
Jeremy Sharon, CTV News, Ottawa.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says her province has not made a decision about invoking the notwithstanding clause on 3 controversial laws impacting transgender people, despite a memo that was leaked last week. The internal memo from Alberta's Justice Department indicated Smith's government is exploring ways to protect the legislation. The 3 laws include restricting youth access to puberty blockers, requiring parental consent for name and pronoun changes at schools, and barring transgender girls from playing female sports. Smith says she's prepared to let the courts resolve the issues, but says she's not ruling out invoking the notwithstanding clause.
That we can make the case that we shouldn't be doing medical interventions on children that will sterilize them. It just seems so obvious to me that is the case, and that is ultimately what the courts will decide. So I'm prepared to go to court and battle that out. I think we need to. But if it turns out that the court process may take years and years and years to resolve, then we may have to take that measure.
Alberta's cabinet is expected to consider the proposal on October 21st, shortly before the legislature reconvenes.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is attending the United Nations General Assembly in New York today after announcing Canada will recognize Palestinian statehood.
Yes. We may invite you to sign our guest photo.
Carney met with the UN Secretary General last night, reinforcing Canada's support for a 2-state solution. The Prime Minister says there is not much hope currently of negotiating Palestinian statehood, blaming the threat of Hamas, the expansion of Israeli settlements, and the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Carney is expected to take part in talks today on how a Palestinian state can exist in peace alongside Israel. Canada joined the UK, Australia, and Portugal yesterday in recognizing Palestinian statehood. And for more on this, we're joined by CTV's Colton Crail, who is in New York City this afternoon. Colton, how is Canada's recognition of the Palestinian state being received there at the General Assembly?
Well, certainly ahead of this high-level conference that you're just referring to, there is a positive sentiment, and that's in large part because that conference is chaired by France, who will also be recognizing the Palestinian state, that coming later on this afternoon. And this conference, this high-level conference, is very specifically, as you mentioned, towards the progression and the implementation of a 2-state solution. And so over the next few hours, for the first time, we're going to hear Mark Carney speaking about this decision, why Canada took it. As you highlight, this is a decision that Canada and other allies made in large part to exert international pressure on Israel, on Hamas as well, to come together for a 2-state solution. This is, as you point out, something that Mark Carney wrote in a statement yesterday he feels is eroding as a possible outcome from negotiated agreements. We have seen, though, however, not everyone in favor of this. Israel has come out against this, of course. The United States has also come out against this. Secretary of State Marco Rubio earlier this summer, when Canada and a number of these nations announced their intentions to to recognize the state of Palestine at this UNGA, came out and said not to recognize the state unilaterally. We've seen U.S. senators write a letter to Canada and other allies who have done so, threatening that there could be economic or other repercussions from the United States for these actions. It's important to note there was a call yesterday between Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand and Secretary of State Marco Rubio. In the American readout of this call, it does not make reference to the fact that Canada recognized the state of Palestine. It does, however, highlight an agreement between the two nations to ensure that Hamas is not slowing down an end to the conflict in the Middle East. So it's unclear at this point in time just how significant of an impact this is going to have on bilateral and foreign relations that Canada has with the United States, but it is making this decision in alignment with a number of other Western allies, particularly European Western allies.
Colton, what else is on the agenda for the Prime Minister today?
There is plenty on the agenda. In fact, in just moments, he's going to be speaking at the Council of Foreign Relations, the fireside chat that's supposed to cover Canada's foreign policy priorities and the global economic order. This is a big part of this UNGA. I mean, there are 4 key issues for Canada here at the UNGA. It's the state of Palestine, it's ensuring there's support for Ukraine, a focus on climate targets, and also the shifting global economy. We've heard Mark Carney talk about that a lot. Canada is not the only country with that focus. There are a lot of small small and middle powers here who have survived in a geopolitical world governed by organizations like the United Nations, like the World Trade Organization, that allow these smaller players to have perhaps outsized power on the world stage. But we have seen such a significant departure and a shift from that under Donald Trump's America. We're in the financial capital of the states right now. It is no longer all about a U.S. hegemonic economy focused on free, fair trade with other nations. It is much more bilateral. It is much more transactional. And so what does that mean for smaller players like Canada? How do they ensure there is a stability to the global economy and to the institutions that have allowed them to prosper over the last 6, 7 decades? That's such a significant focus of the conversations that are happening here. There's even going to be a new UN commissioner or conference created on Tuesday. Canada will be taking part in it, focused on the resilience of the future economy. So that is a significant part of what he is doing today, and part of how the Prime Minister is doing that is continuing bilateral meetings with nations that Canada doesn't always have the strongest or the most frequent diplomatic contact with. So yesterday, for example, he had a bilateral meeting with the president of Namibia. Today, he's meeting with the leaders of Turkey and Kenya. He's met with a number of CEOs as well in areas like AI, mining, logistics. There is a very significant focus on navigating the future economy and ensuring that Canada has a part to play on the world stage, whatever that part looks like.
There is a lot to tackle. CTV's Colton Prale live for us at the UN General Assembly in New York City. Thank you.
Anytime.
A new report from the World Wildlife Fund says the future of Canada's wildlife is at risk. The fund's Living Planet report found more than half of the species it studied are rapidly decreasing. The biggest declines were seen in grassland habitats, where wildlife populations declined by 62% on average since 1970. In forests, mammal populations declined by 42% over the last 5 decades. Across Canada, animals on the list of threatened species saw their populations decline by an average of 43%.
Those habitats in many parts of the southern part of the country, where many of our species at risk are found, they need investment in restoration, broad-scale restoration in our grasslands and our forests and our wetlands. And in so doing, that has both benefit for species like those found in the report, but as well in terms of our action on climate change. And so for me, that is the single greatest opportunity in front of us in terms of bringing people on the land, restoring those important areas, and the potential in terms that might also have in advancing a new conservation economy in Canada.
World Wildlife Fund Canada says every species group included in the study is trending in the wrong direction. Thousands of people attended a memorial service for conservative activist Charlie Kirk in Arizona yesterday.
Kirk's widow, Erica, called for peace and forgiveness following the murder of her husband.
My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life. That young man. On the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Supporters of Kirk filled State Farm Stadium as well as a nearby arena. Several influential figures from the American conservative movement, as well as members of the Trump administration, spoke at the event. U.S. President Donald Trump spoke for more than half an hour.
On that terrible day, September 10th, 2025, our greatest evangelist for American liberty became immortal. He's a martyr now for American freedom. I know I speak for everyone here today when I say that none of us will ever forget Charlie Kirk. For millions of Americans, especially young people, it is agonizing and unthinkable to say goodbye to a patriot whose heart still had so much to give.
Trump praised Kirk as a great American hero. He also credited him for playing a pivotal role in his 2024 election victory. Kirk's death has sparked heated discussion about political violence and free speech in the U.S.
The Trump administration is expected to tie pregnant women's use of Tylenol to autism, going against medical guidelines which say the drug is safe. U.S. federal health officials have been reviewing previous research on the potential link. U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has argued America is experiencing an autistic epidemic, which he claims is fueled by environmental toxins. President Donald Trump previewed the announcement on Saturday, saying it would be one of the most important things his administration does. 85 years ago, Canadian pilots joined Allied forces to defend Britain from Germany in a significant win early in the Second World War.
This weekend, Air Force troops across the country commemorated the Battle of Britain. CTV's Alison Bamford reports.
A moment overhead to honor a pivotal battle fought in the skies above England. Royal Canadian Air Force and Armed Forces members commemorating the 85th anniversary of the Battle of Britain. Among those in uniform are pilots in training, motivated by those who flew before them.
It's our history. It's why we do what we do.
The 1940 Battle of Britain lasted 114 days. Allied forces defended the United Kingdom against Nazi Germany in the first battle ever fought almost exclusively in the air. Many of the Canadian pilots didn't have a choice but to learn on the fly.
Back then, some of these young men only had 10 to 20 hours before they were sent off into battle.
The Battle of Britain ended October 31st, 1940, but commemoration ceremonies like this one take place in September to mark a major turning point for the Allies.
Hitler threw everything at us, and what they thought was easy pickings turned out to not be so much, and completely changed the mindset of the Germans once they lost.
More than 100 Canadian pilots joined the fight. 23 of them lost their lives. Irishman John Paddy Hemingway was the last surviving Battle of Britain pilot. He died in March at the age of 105. They all left a legacy that these members say will be hard to forget. Ken Hawks served in the Royal Canadian Air Force decades after the Battle of Britain. He wasn't a pilot, but he looked up to those who were.
They reached out to us in so many ways.
A legacy that will live on through the next generation of Air Force pilots. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Moose Jaw.
Well, did you hear the rain and the thunderstorms last night? It had been a while since we had significant rain here in the city of Toronto. We picked up about 23 millimeters yesterday, so that brings our September tally of rainfall up a little bit, considering we had only had one other day of rain, and that was September the 4th. Take a look. Here's our tally so far, 42 millimeters, and yes, we will add more from today and probably over the next couple of days. I want to bring you up to speed on Tropical Storm Gabrielle. It is currently swirling to the east of Bermuda and is going to continue making its way out into the middle of the Atlantic and away from us here in North America. Technically, this Atlantic hurricane season continues to be quiet. We're going to bring it back to your local forecast and show you what's in store for the first week of fall after this break here on CTV News at noon. Stay with us.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Well, we're coming off a great weekend where it still feels like summer, but summer's just about done.
Well, this is it, 2 o'clock, right? So we still have the final hours of summer, and unfortunately, they've been drenched, which is, it's too bad. But I think if you look at the temperatures this week, that's kind of like, it could be a lot colder.
This is our silver lining for anyone who's not quite ready for a dramatic change. Yes, it is going to be a more unsettled week. We've needed some rain, so I suppose we have to take that. But it's not going to be a sudden drop in temperature. It's still going to feel like summer for the next couple of days. In fact, it's quite humid today and will be for tomorrow. We're going to remain trending above seasonal temperature-wise right through next weekend. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. Heavy rain last night and at times today as well. This is a little bit of time-lapse video captured from the CN Tower looking out toward the Toronto Islands. Yeah, that rain, it started coming down again. It's been a gray start to the week and, of course, to the day today. And we're looking at a few rounds of rain over the next 2 to 3 to 4 days here. So keep the umbrella handy. You're likely to need it on more than one occasion. Here's our current satellite and radar. We still have some wet weather impacting portions of the GTA, but for the most part, this is now moving eastward and will be less of a concern going forward the next couple of hours. But we're not completely in the clear. It's been a soggy start to the day for communities east of Georgian Bay, eastern Ontario now feeling the bulk of this. And some more thunderstorms are starting to make their way across southwestern Ontario, lightning associated with all of this active weather, in fact. So it's been a little bit stormy. And yes, a pattern change certainly, because we've been dealing with some pretty dry conditions through much of September. The only other day aside from last night that we had wet weather was September the 4th. And over the next 2 days here, we could pick up maybe 10 to 15 millimeters of rain. And additional rainfall is expected for Wednesday and into Thursday as well. We're just not taking the models quite that far yet. Here's later on today. So it looks like maybe another round of rain or thunderstorm activity. Your Tuesday could start off with some fog, but for the most part, dry. We might even get some sunny breaks, but then once again into the afternoon, some wet weather expected, some embedded thunderstorms too. And again, we're going to keep an eye on especially Thursday for some rain that could be steady and heavy at times. Let's talk about the temperature part of your story. Right now, it is 21 degrees in Toronto. It feels like 28. The seasonal average is now about 19 degrees, so you will notice that we are trending warmer than that most days. Today we're forecasting 24 degrees, feeling like 29. Your evening sports forecast might be a little unsettled or rained out. And of course, when thunder roars, you have to move indoors. So make sure you're keeping an eye on the sky and an ear out for thunder. Warm overnight tonight. 17 is our forecast low. And then here's tomorrow at a glance. 23 degrees, feeling like 28. Bit of sunshine at times early in the day, but that chance of showers and thunderstorms going to be there once again. It's a chance of wet weather on Wednesday and then some heavier rain for Thursday. As mentioned, notice the daytime highs remaining in the 20s. Overnight lows, not bad either, double digits and teen temperatures right across the board. Looking ahead to next weekend, I like what I see. Highs of 24 and 23 degrees with brighter skies overall as well. That's the forecast for now. Michelle, over to you.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Lindsay. Well, there's a shakeup at Queen's Park where the backbencher MPP bounced from the Progressive Conservative caucus.
The Premier faced questions about Chris Scott's departure at a news conference in Prescott near Ottawa in the last hour. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has been keeping tabs on this developing story and joins us now live with the latest. Siobhan.
Well, Nathan, the Premier said he'd only really learned about what happened with Chris Scott as he was in the parking lot right before that news conference. Here is what we do know. Now, Chris Scott was first elected to the provincial legislature back in February, representing Sault Ste. Marie. We heard from Sault Ste. Marie police in the last half hour or so that he was arrested by Toronto police yesterday with their help or based on an investigation out of Sault Ste. Marie. Exactly what he has been charged with, nobody is saying at this point. Sault Ste. Marie police say they're not releasing more to protect the privacy of any victims. We do know that the Chris Scott was asked to leave, remove from PC caucus quickly. He was an associate or parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Energy. This news conference by the Premier really took on a justice bent. He was asked about a recent tour of an encampment in Barrie that was dismantled over the weekend. The Premier used that moment to really talk about the need for reforms of the justice system at the federal level. Here's what he had to say.
I'm done with the crime. The federal government has to get their butt moving on bail reform, Young Offenders Act, mandatory sentencing. I can tell you one thing. It's always the economy and healthcare. When we do our polling, crime is right beside it now. People are done with it. So we're going to clean that up. But the federal government has to change the criminal code. They have to stop dragging their feet and start moving on this. We want our communities back. We want our towns back and our cities back. And I'm not going to let less than 1% of the people hijack the whole system. I'm done with it.
The Premier Solicitor General has written to the federal government today to really underline that point. The federal government has promised new legislation some point over the fall session, but we don't know exactly when that's going to be announced. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Still to come, can self-driving cars potentially help reduce congestion? We'll have those details when we come back. Self-driving car features like adaptive cruise control, which can match the speed of traffic, are nice for the person behind the wheel. But a new study shows that just a few self-driving cars sprinkled into a roadway can reduce traffic jams for everyone. Here to tell us why is CTV Science and Tech expert Dan Riskin. Dan, anything that makes the DVP better? We know traffic is an issue in this city. This is welcome news. What's the story here?
Absolutely. I really like this story. Basically, we know that we can reduce traffic jams if people are slowing down in advance of that jam. If they go as fast as they can until they get to the jam and then slam the brakes, it just makes the jam bigger. It's worse for the people behind them. If cars slow down as they approach because they know it's up ahead, it improves it and it makes the jam go away. And so those clumps that form when traffic's just really heavy in this city would be going away. So what this research shows is that if you have the cars on a network where they're sending information to each other and you tell the adaptive cruise control, hey, I know you've got open road in front of you, but instead of going the speed limit, go 5 under the speed limit for a little bit, and that's going to improve things. By doing that, it changes the patterns, not just for the cars that are doing it, but for all the cars that are behind that other vehicle that's slowed down a little bit. And so this is very promising technology. The real challenge right now, though, is when you're sitting in that car and it's not going as fast as the speed limit, you see that big gap in front of you, it's very tempting to just take over from the autopilot and say, I want to go faster. And so it's a question of how you're going to convince people to let the cruise control be the boss in those situations.
Right. And what about tailgaters? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't a cure for that just yet.
Right. So Dan, let's turn from the highway to the sky. A new study shows the sun has been getting stronger every year since 2008. I would have thought the opposite. What's going on with our star?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the sun goes through these 11-year cycles, and we've been the beneficiaries of some really great northern lights these last couple of years. That's because we're at one of these peaks, and 5-6 years from now, it's going to be in a minimum, and we're not going to get many northern lights. And then after that, it's going to peak again. And we get distracted by these 11-year cycles, which are lovely, but researchers went and sort of subtracted those sine waves out of the 11-year cycle just to see what the leftover variability looks like. And to their surprise, they found that for the last 17 years or so, solar activity has been increasing, and we didn't quite realize it because we've been so distracted by these big swings up and down every 11 years. And so what this shows is that the sun is unpredictable, and we don't quite understand exactly how it decides when it's going to ramp up or quiet down. In the 1600s, there were almost no sunspots and no northern lights for about 70 years. And here we seem to be heading into a period where there's a lot more of that stuff. So nothing to be concerned about, but just a reminder that we have a lot to learn about how our sun works.
Well, I'm glad there's nothing to be concerned about. And finally, Dan, humans have 2 arms, but most of us use one more than the other. Researchers checked to see if that's the case for octopus. What did they find?
Yeah, this is cool. Octopus have 8 arms, of course. Everybody knows that. It's right in the name. But the question is, are they right-handed, left-handed, front-handed, back-handed? Turns out octopus are front-handed. They don't show a preference of right over left, but they do use the front legs about 2/3 of the time for whatever they're manipulating or doing. And the legs in the back do get used mostly for locomotion, but only about 1/3 of the time. And what's cool is you can see those octopus legs just moving around in all those intricate ways. They showed that all the legs are able to do all those things. So there isn't a case where some of the arms are more dexterous than others, but when they're grabbing the hold of a scuba diver's arm, they're more likely to be doing that with the front limbs than the back limbs.
Saving the back for what?
Well, it's in front of you. They can see it with their eyes. And that's just a preference that they have. And so the thinking is, as we build robots that are going to use these soft movement technologies, it's just always good to see what nature does with them to see what might be optimal. It might be that actually has a lot of advantages. And so the next question is to find out why octopus have that preference for the front end instead of the back end.
Always interesting. CTV Science and Tech expert Dan Riskin, thank you. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot.
A new report is accusing Canada and other major fossil fuel producing nations of derailing the world's chances of meeting targets needed to limit climate change. The report was compiled by Canada's International Institute for Sustainable Development, along with 2 other nonprofits. It says fossil fuel production levels 5 years from now are expected to be more than double the levels outlined in the 2015 Paris Agreement. The report suggests countries plan to release 120% more fossil fuels in 2030 than what is needed to keep global warming to 1.5 degrees.
The province is preparing to begin its fall vaccine rollout as COVID-19 cases trend up across Canada. Over the coming days, COVID shots will be shipped to hospitals, long-term care homes, and other congregate settings. They'll be followed by flu shots on the week of September 29th. Other people in high risk and priority groups, including people over 65, will be able to access the shots from primary care providers as supply becomes available. The public will then be able to get the shots starting October 27th.
Still to come, the Blue Jays are generating a lot of buzz after clinching a playoff berth. We'll have more on some of the online reaction when we return. Stay with us.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
The Toronto Blue Jays are going to the playoffs, and the city is buzzing with support for the team. For more on some of the online reaction, we're joined by Sam East, host with 99.9 Virgin Radio, for our regular Monday segment, Chronically Online. Happy Monday, Sam. The Jays post-game celebration we saw a little earlier, it has generated quite a bit of reaction.
Yes, and I'm not going to claim to be the baseball expert here, but what I am keeping my eye on is the online reaction, which, of course, there's a big buzz in the city, and there has been for a long time now, given how well the Jays have been doing. Let's see some of the celebrations that they had in the locker room. Yes. All of the champagne and beer and other things being thrown at Vladdy there. But they come prepared, right? Like, they have the goggles. They have the technology. They know what to do to prepare for these celebrations. So, of course, very joyous as they're heading into the postseason. Some of the reaction online has had some cautious optimism, right? Like, people are excited. People want the team to do well. But some people are like, why are you wasting all the champagne? We still got work to do.
Help me understand this, though. Okay, someone next to me shaking his head. It's been such an exciting season, and that is a big accomplishment. And although, you know, it's looking like the odds are in the Jays' favor of clinching the AL East, it's not for sure. And this is a big win, getting the playoffs. Like, why not celebrate?
I completely agree. Like, you got to celebrate the big wins and the small wins. They're all steps to the big thing, right? And to keep the momentum and the joy. I mean, again, I'm not a baseball expert by any means, but just from a, you know, morale standpoint, knowing that the team is in this celebration together and the city is behind you too, Blue Jays, we are.
Oh, absolutely. And you know what? They'll just have to top that the next time there's a reason to celebrate. So
more champagne.
More champagne, maybe something else too. Okay, Sam, let's talk about something else. The summer, it officially ends this very afternoon, but Canada's Wonderland, it remains open. We know they have all the Halloween stuff too, and there's some unique characters that recently caught visitors' eyes. Tell me about this.
So, yeah, it's not about the rides or even the riders, but some special guests that have been making appearances that people have noticed online, both a raccoon and a groundhog. Okay, so first, here's the raccoon in the koi fish pond. That is quite literally, as you can see, hunting for fish. Some people in the comments on Reddit, you know, said this raccoon has lived such a lush and luxurious life in Toronto that it doesn't know how to fish. It doesn't look like it ever catches a fish. So this got a lot of attention. And then there was also, not quite, my friend, not quite. There was also a groundhog that was getting a lot of attention, just snacking on some pizza. Ooh. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is all at Canada's Wonderland, where, yeah, people are on the roller coasters, but no, they've turned their phones to these moments that have now gone viral, and, yeah, getting a lot of attention. That slice of pizza, though, my friend, probably cost like $10, and he got it for free.
Oh, my goodness. It's like Canada's Wonderland is suddenly an impromptu zoo. But if anybody who lives in Toronto, I mean, you would see these in your own backyard, but I think it sort of lives up to its name, Canada's Wonderland. That is our wildlife and another extra little attraction there, Sam.
And also, so sort of Toronto-esque. Mm-hmm. Remember at TIFF, there was a pigeon that got some viral attention. It was on the red carpet at TIFF, and it was taking attention away from, you know, the big A-list celebrities that were on the carpet. So I just feel the animals stealing the spotlight feels very Toronto.
Why not? Sam East, 99 Virgin Radio. You can catch our show weekdays from 2 to 5. Have a great show today, Sam. Take care.
Thanks, Michelle.
Well, the BlackNorth Initiative recently marked its 5th anniversary.
The organization is working to support diversity, equity, and inclusion. CTV's Andrea Case has more on a recent fundraising gala.
A star-studded night, raising voices for an important cause. Grammy-nominated and Juno Award winner Deborah Cox just one of the performers at the BlackNorth Initiative Gala at the Fairmont Royal York Hotel. Created 5 years ago in the aftermath of the murder of George Floyd by Wes Hall, the BlackNorth Initiative closes gaps created by systemic anti-black racism and envisions a Canada where such racism no longer exists. The event recognized people and organizations which are making a difference. Dahabo Ahmed Omer is the CEO of BlackNorth Initiative.
I want to change the world. I want black communities to feel safe in every space they're in and every room that they go into. I want them to thrive. I want them to own homes. I want them to have jobs. I want them to go to school. I want to be joyful, and BlackNorth for us is exactly that. It's creating opportunities for people that have been denied those opportunities for far too long.
The organization's programs include home ownership bridge programs, career opportunities, a digital entrepreneurship program, scholarships and bursaries at a time when initiatives south of the border are openly retracting diversity, equity and inclusion programs. The work is being done here to make sure it doesn't happen. Lawyer Soma Ray Ellis's firm Gardner Roberts was one of the night's sponsors.
I think that we still face issues of systemic discrimination, and I think organizations like this help us understand that and help people that could really use a helping hand.
Award recipient Frank Bayless's mother was from Barbados, and as a former member of Parliament and current businessman, he understands the importance of DEI.
This is such a critical time to be supporting DEI. If you look at what's happening south of the border, you do see that there's an attack. Let's call it what it is. There's a direct attack on anything to do with opening the doors for anybody other than this few minorities. And so if we don't stand up, if we don't make our voices heard, well then we're just like if we're in agreement with that, and that's not right. So I think it's critical at this juncture in time that everybody stands up and says, we believe in diversity. It's our strength. We believe in inclusion. I mean, how can you be against inclusion? How can you be against equity? It makes no sense. So absolutely we need to stand up for that.
Andrea Case, CTV News, Toronto.
Coming up, racing through the capital. We'll have more on the thousands who took to the streets of Ottawa this weekend in honor of the Canadian Armed Forces. Thousands of people raced through the capital this weekend to honor members of the Canadian Armed Forces.
CTV's Josh Morano has more on the mission behind the annual Army Run.
In front of City Hall, 82-year-old Fred Clark is warming up for the Canada Army Run Half Marathon, a race he holds close to his heart.
I was in 5 years, so I've got close buddies still in the military, and I relate to their cause, or to the veterans, and especially the wounded and the families, so it's an honor.
Thousands of participants alongside him showing their support to military members through exercise.
The vets that I know, none of them are really requiring aid, but again, I do realize that there are a lot that do, and I think we should show our respect. I think it's almost an obligation as far as I'm concerned.
Particularly now more than ever, I feel it's really good to support our military, but also just to support family members that have suffered.
The funds raised go to support our troops and Soldier On, helping with everything from rehabilitations to family programs. The course finished at the Canadian War Memorial, where Artisan Biba crossed the finish line with the fastest time to complete the half marathon.
Army is a big part of our country. It's great to be a part of this cause. I've been running it last year, and I'll probably be running it many more times again in the future.
It's directly impacting the lives of serving members and their families. So we thank everyone who registers is doing a part, whether it's showing support, fundraising, and coming out and cheering or volunteering.
For Clark, he says it's not just about crossing the finish line, it's about showing support for the men and women who serve.
For the Canadian Army to hang in, be bold, and we may be tested at some point in time, and I'm sure they're up to it, and we're proud of them.
Josh Morano, CTV News.
Oh, look at that brilliant blue sky. Perfect for that occasion. Now our skies have turned stormy at times, and we're getting a good dose of weather.
Yeah, it's not quite as blue anymore, but you're right. Fall is right around the corner. In fact, just over an hour away now. So here's a look at when fall arrives. 2:19 p.m. if you want to celebrate. I know many people whose favorite season is fall. So very happy happy for you all. Here's another look at the satellite and radar. We've had some clearing, but worth mentioning that we're not quite done with the wet weather. And then overnight tonight, watch for some fog developing. It's going to be quite mild, 17 degrees for the low. And then tomorrow, not quite as hot as today, but still humid. 23 degrees will feel more like 28 at the height of the day. Let's take one more look at the 7-day forecast, and it is a more unsettled weather forecast compared to what we've seen the last many weeks. Chance of showers most days, some heavier rain into the day on Thursday. Looks like some brighter skies starting as early as Friday, and then the weekend looks pretty good. Notice how temperatures for highs remain in the 20s. Nathan and Michelle.
All right, looks good. Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.